Lief Erikson was born in Iceland sometime around 960 AD. Thorvald, Lief's grandfather, was expelled from Norway for killing a man during a dispute. Lief lived with a man named Thurker and his father. Thurker was well educated and taught Lief how to read and write runes, and how to speak the languages of Ireland and Russia. He taught Lief to be a good trader.
Well, Lief, I think it's time for me and you to take a father-son trip to Thingvellir!
Well, in Thingvellir, Erik met a man with whom he had once quarreled. A fight started, and Erik, known for his quick temper, murdered the man. The Thing Council banished Erik from Iceland for 3 years.
Unable to return to Norway, from which his father had been exiled, and now banished from Iceland himself, Erik the Red decided to sail westward to investigate the rumors of a new land over the western horizon.
Erik the Red spent 3 years in Greenland. From a settlement called Erikholm, he explored Greenland's rugged coastline and taught his son how to be a great sailor.
I can sail! You can't sail because of me!
When Erik was able to return to Iceland, he talked of Greenland and its bountiful riches of reindeer, seal, and walrus.
Greenland sure is great. There is a lot of reindeer, seal, and walrus. I kill them and I eat them. They are tasty.
To encourage others to return with him to settle this new land.
Go to Greenland with me.
Because of the famine in Europe, the desolation of the scarce forests of Iceland, and the promise of a better life elsewhere, many Icelanders decided to follow Erik. In the spring of 985, he set out with 25 ships loaded with supplies, settlers, and livestock. It was a disastrous voyage. Towering waves and strong winds battered the ships. Some were forced to turn back, others disappeared into the waves and were never seen again. Only 350 colonists and 14 ships set foot on Greenland. The survivors created 2 settlements. In time, they would be the home of over 3,000 Vikings and would be occupied for over 400 years.
In 986, a ship belonging to a merchant named Barney Herjolfsson sailed into the harbor of Lief Greenland Cove. Barney explained that on the voyage from Iceland, he had lost sight of the North Star and had sailed in a storm for many days without being able to navigate. After the weather settled, he spotted land, but it wasn't Greenland, where he had been heading. Instead of seeing glaciers and fjords, Barney saw a hilly coastline green with trees. Barney also explained that he did not stop to explore this land, but immediately set sail for Greenland.
Lief became restless in his Greenland home. He decided to find the land to the west of which Barney had spoken. Lief asked his father, Erik the Red, to head the expedition. His father's courage and seamanship would be important, especially if the new land could not be found, and the crew grew anxious. But Erik refused, believing he was now too old for such a voyage. After much pleading, Erik finally agreed, and Lief prepared the Nar and Viking cargo ships he had purchased from Barney. On his way to the dock, Erik fell from his horse and sprained his ankle. Being superstitious, this fall was considered a bad omen. Erik lost his desire to leave the voyage. Lief was now on his own.
Lief Erikson set sail with a crew of 34 men from Greenland in the year 1000 AD. As was the Viking way, he steered his ship by the sun during the day and stars at night and hoped Barney's land would soon appear. Before long, off to the west, Lief and his crew spotted land. They went ashore but weren't impressed by what they saw. The flat stone-covered beach gave way to a huge glacier and barren land. It was not the land of a timber and meadows Barney had described. Lief named the land Haluland after the flat stone. Today we call this land Baffin Island. Baffin Island!
Disappointed, Lief and his men sailed south and west. Within days, spotted a wooden shoreline that rose gently from sea. Again, Lief named the land covering it to its nature and called it Markland, meaning
Markland!
wood. Today this land is called Labrador.
Labrador!
Still uncertain that he had reached his destination, Lief set sail once again. The strong northeast winds took his ship southward along the coast of Labrador. 2 days later, more land was sighted. This time it was a small grass-covered island. In the distance was more land. Lief sailed on, through a channel past the cape, and into a bay of shallow water. Lief and his crew went ashore and explored the stream that glistened with salmon.
Stream with salmon!
They found a forest filled with spruce trees and meadows covered with thick grasses. Lief realized that the land had everything necessary for a permanent settlement.
Yeah!
The salmon would feed them, the forest would provide them timber for their boats and homes, and the grasses would feed their livestock. As winter approached, Lief and his crew decided to build a camp and to continue to explore this new land. One of his crewmen found vines filled with grapes. Since grapes do not grow in Greenland, this is a very important find and would bring them much profit upon his return. Lief named this new land Vinland or Wineland.
Vinland! Wineland!
Some historians argue that the term Vinland refers not to the wild grapes, but to the grasses that were so important to feeding their livestock. When spring came, Lief and his crew set sail from Vinland with the hold of their ship filled with the riches of this new land. Because he had traveled such a great distance and found such great wealth without any troubles, Lief became known as Lief the Lucky.
Lief! Lief! Lucky!
Well, we now know that Vinland was North America and that the exact location of Lief's permanent settlement was at Lief Meadows on the tip of the Grand Northern Peninsula of island of Newfoundland in Canada. For a few more years, other Vikings returned and attempted to settle Vinland. The Lief Meadows settled was used as a base from which the Vikings explored the land around the shores of the Gulf of St. Lawrence. Some historians believe that the Vikings explored the coastline of eastern North America as far as South Florida. It is supported by what some believe are rune stones in New England and a Viking coin found in Native American graves. Both have proven to be fakes. Unfriendly and sometimes violent encounters with the Skraelings, the Vikings' word for natives, and more profitable trade with Europe made the effort to settle Vinland unworthy. After just 3 years, the settlement of Lief Meadows was abandoned shortly after its discovery by archaeologists in 1960. Its importance in human history was recognized. In 1976, it was declared an historic site in Canada. 2 years later, in 1978, it was declared a World Heritage Site by the United Nations. This recognition has attracted visitors from around the world.
Very little is known about Lief's later life. He became an important person in Greenland after the death of his father. It is not known when Lief died, but his son Thorkel became the master of the settlement in about 1025, so it is assumed he died sometime before then.
Thorkel was one of
Erik the Red spent 3 years in Greenland from a settlement called
Oh my hair!
Oh, what the
died, but his son